Hello everyone and welcome to This Nintendo Life episode 275. My name is Nbz. I'm back, baby. We're here, back in person doing a podcast again with me and Bally. It's been a while.
I'm sorry, who are you?
I'm sorry, I've been fired from the show. This is what happens when you leave for a long time. It's
been a while.
It's been a while. It's been a little while.
We've had guests, we've had solo shows.
Yeah, there's been a lot of stuff going on.
Shadow drops of Hades.
We've had a lot of stuff.
I've
exactly.
Bunch of games.
Yeah,
you've been a bunch of games.
You played a bunch of demos and stuff.
I actually played some demos. I never play demos.
I think this is just like, I think this is the struggle, right? Is like if it's just one person doing the show, you're like, oh fuck, I've got to have something to talk about on this on this video game podcast. What can I do? Demos. That's it. That's the way to do it. Exactly, but it's all good. It's all good stuff. Obviously, people, if you've listened to the Hades bonus, you'll have heard me be back. But it's the first time Bally and I are back doing a proper podcast together in a few weeks. So,
shout outs to both Devon and Jordan for coming on as guests.
Thanks to our guests. Thank you, Bally, for fucking keeping the show going and just having to do solo shows, which I know is not.
I'll tell you what, solo podcasting, it's hard.
Yeah.
I found myself writing up quite a lot more notes, and which is fine, but then having the time to actually read the notes, but having to read the notes while you're talking and then pause, and there might have been like 2 or 3 times where I just pause, gather my thoughts, and then I just clapped and just edited out like a moment just to keep things flowing, as it were, in the edit.
Right.
But,
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that helps a lot. My brain is just sick. I've been talking to myself too long on the internet to the point when I do a solo segment, it's. I don't think I edit it. I think I've edited like one thing maybe, but like for the most part, I just like take that file and I'm just like, that's 45 minutes of me just talking nonstop, and I'm like, I don't really know how I did that, but it just kind of happens.
I tell you what I underestimate is I'll have like the name of a game or a character on the tip of my tongue. And
yes.
When you're on the show, I'll like describe them and you go, oh yeah, you mean this person or this game. Yeah. And then when you're not there, there's just this silence. And I'm like, well, I guess I'd better Google the answer, Google it, and then say, yes, of course, this thing. And then edit out the chunk.
That's very funny.
Just to like keep it flowing. It's tragic. Absolutely tragic.
It's hard stuff. But I appreciate you taking on the reins to do that. It's not an easy job. So. Good stuff. There's some few areas of business we've got to get to before we get into this video and podcast. So one area of business is, before I left, we did a thing called a Nintendo Switch draft, which I don't believe has been...
I was going to bring this up as a surprise.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't believe this has been brought up on the show yet.
No.
So Bally, do you want to tell the fine folks at home, because this is the first time we've been back since that episode, what happened with this fucking draft is what I want.
Have you seen the results?
I have now, because I went to the Patreon just to prep for this, just to check it. So I do know. But the listeners may be in suspense.
In the 6 weeks that Nbz has been away, we've had guests, we had solo shows, like we just said. We had 25 votes. So thank you to everyone that voted. I'll admit, I was checking this fairly frequently, and I think the lead changed about 6 or 7 times.
That's mad, dude.
It was always tight, and I was victorious with a margin of 52%.
That's fucking crazy. 52 to 48 is like, that is literally probably one person's vote, I would say, I think, in it. So,
and for those who don't know, that is also the same margin that Brexit crossed the line.
Oh my god, fucking hell.
It was 52-48. So it's a very tragic ratio.
This is TNL's very own Brexit. I think that's a tragedy for people of the world who have good taste. Unfortunately, you now have to. I guess
there's just not enough sickos out there. Is the ultimate point.
There's not. Well, no, I think, Bally, there are too many sickos, because I did lose out to a console that had Xenoblade Chronicles 3 on it. So my
sicko bait worked then.
Yes, it was the tipping point that eventually got everybody overboard. So good stuff. Congratulations, Bally. You can keep the crown until the next time we do that, in which case
let's do another one for the next console.
Yeah, exactly. For the next console. Okay, piece of business number 2, Bally. I went to Japan. We'll talk about that on the show, of course. But what I realized in Japan is that I'm a child and all I want to do is buy Pokemon cards. So I bought Pokemon cards, and I opened some of them. I opened one packet on a Twitter.
How many? It's like 6 cards per pack, you were saying?
Usually, yes. Usually. There are some exceptions, and we'll get to that. So I opened one on a Twitter video that was good fun. I opened one on the Patreon exclusive podcast I did, which is my travel log, which you can go check out on the Patreon. But there was one pack I found. I was like, this is really special. This is a special kind of pack. And I'm going to save this for when I get back, and I'm going to open it on an episode of the show proper. Oh, cool. So here we are. Finally, we've come to it. This packet, I'm actually, as I talk about it, I'm just going to send you a picture of this packet live. This is a very special packet because I believe what they did maybe a couple of years ago, they did a rerun, a reprint of the original 151 Pokemon cards. So I believe this packet, it says 151 on it. It has a Mew on the front. It was 800 yen, which is, by the way, like 4 times the price of a regular Pokemon card pack. And it has 7 cards in it. So this is
an extra trainer.
I don't know what it is, but we're going to open this live on the air. So here we go. Fucking, oh my God. No, oh fuck. I realized, Bally, in my infinite wisdom, I don't have scissors here. So this may be a little bit of
Since when do you need scissors to open the pack of Pokemon cards?
Mate, okay, I've got it. I got it at the center of it. I think I fucked up the packet, but I did find my way in.
Who cares about the packet?
These are really hard to open, and I don't know why, but they are very, very difficult to open. The thing is, I don't want to ruin this pack completely because it does have a cool Mew on it, and it is like the 151. So, okay, here we go. Okay, here we go. All right, I think I've got it. It's coming out. Here we go. All right. So, I don't actually know where the shiny comes in this. So I'm just going to take a guess that the second one here is the shiny. So we're going to go.
Second one?
Yeah, it's like a whole thing. You know when people open Pokemon packs on the internet these days, all these sickos, they know what they're doing and they just fucking like doing a thing where they just do, they move it to the back. Okay, here we go. Let's turn over the first card. Here we go. We got a fucking trainer. Great.
Oh, I told you.
Correct. It's a pair of goggles. Okay, it looks like I'm gonna say like a scope of some kind. It's goggles.
Super scope.
Super scope, maybe. I don't know.
Super
All right.
scope,
Next up, we've got. Oh shit! It's a shiny. It's shiny Gloom. It's Gloom, the original. My boy. I think I have Japanese Gloom somewhere. And he's kind of got ugly art. But he is
These are the original.
I think this pack is a reprint of the original.
Right.
Yes, so they reprinted the original 151 cards.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, this is the original art.
Work the same as the Gloom that we know?
I think it is. Yeah, it's like this weird, ugly Gloom who's just sitting on the ground. That one's just like, it's not a shiny in the traditional sense. It's shiny in that like the green of the card is shiny, but the actual picture doesn't have any shininess to it. So that's fun. Okay. Then we have Electabuzz, my boy. Yeah, Electabuzz. This is really nice artwork. This looks a bit more modern than the old one.
So that's not the same art as the original.
I don't think this is, because the original Electabuzz I remember quite clearly, and this one is definitely not.
You think Gloom is?
I think Gloom is, but this one isn't.
Send me some
so
pictures.
maybe the shiny versions are maybe different in that way. Okay, Seal. Oh, we got Seal. He's lying on his back and he's just chilling out on the ice. Seal is a cool little boy. I like him. Next up, we have Porygon, original Porygon. He's got that kind of clay look to him. That kind of what do you call it?
Claymation.
Claymation, yeah, I guess so. With the background and everything. I don't remember if he looked like this. I feel like there's something
Where's your
similar.
memory gone? I can remember.
I don't know. I just don't know, man.
150. So
I don't know.
Clearly.
There's so many different versions. I think maybe some of the Japanese ones were different as well. And here's a Rhydon, who is very cool. I think this one does look different. I think a lot of these are... The only one to me so far that I recognize is Gloom. So I think the shiny ones are probably using original art, and the non-shinies, I think, are using a bit more modern art. But they look very good. They look very nice. So we've got Rhydon. And finally, the piece de resistance... It's a shiny Jolteon. Shiny Jolteon. That is pretty sick. That does look very, very nice. So this one looks, I think, like the original. Yeah, I want to say that it does. He's got the lightning around him. He's looking all mean and shit. I'll look these up after the show and I'll figure out if they are the originals or not. But there you go. Those are some Pokemon cards that I got. So we had Jolteon, Rhydon, Porygon, I should say, Seal, Lectabuzz, Gloom, and a fucking pair of glasses. For God's sake. So there you go. I still have, I think, a few packets left, so I don't know what I'm going to do with those. Maybe I'll just keep them for 6 years, and another 10 years on the podcast will open one more packet. We'll see. But there you go. That is the opening of our show, which has been very rambling. This, of course, is a video game podcast. So, Bali, do you want to tell people at home what they can expect on this very video game-focused podcast?
Yes, for the first segment, we're going to talk about the games that we have been playing. And then for the second segment, we're going to talk a bit about your experience of gaming-related things in Japan, Nbz.
Yes,
because
absolutely.
There's a lot of them.
There's a lot of fun stuff that was over there and fun stuff to talk about, so we'll get into it. But, Bali, let's kick things off with a new video game release. I did talk a little bit about this with Devon on the show that came out last week. Animal Well, which came out from Video Game Donkey, the publishing label, Big Mode, developed by Billy Basso, a solo developer over the course of, I believe, 7 years. Similar in a way to Tunic, because Tunic was also a game developed, I believe, in 7 years by also a solo-ish developer. I know we say solo developer a lot of the time, and sometimes that's true, sometimes that's not. I think a lot of times there is like, oh, there's a composer or there's someone doing other stuff. I think there are very few actual solo developers. Like Eric Barone is like an actual solo developer. He wrote the music, he did everything, he did absolutely all the aspects of Stardew Valley.
But then there's also like playtesters often.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah, totally. There's loads of people involved, but yeah, seemingly solo developed. And I think a very interesting game that piqued both of our interest just because of the type of space it's playing in. Obviously, there's been a lot of comparisons to puzzly type games like Tunic and like Fez and mystery stuff like that has layers of secrets and uncovering stuff, but also a Metroidvania at the end of the day, which is one of this podcast's favorite genres. We both love Metroidvanias, big fans of them, and yeah, we have both finished Animal Well. To what extent you can actually finish Animal Well at this point, who knows, because there might be another layer of secret.
We saw credits. The ultimate definition of finishing a game, right?
We saw ending A, let's say, of I don't know however many. There's quite a few different things you can do. But yeah, I just want to, maybe let's just start off with just general feelings toward this game, Bally. How did you find your time with Animal Well on the whole?
Very strong. I think it's a great puzzle game that is very atmospheric, some very satisfying puzzles, and the highlight for me was maybe the unique items and the cool ways that you use those unique items. And there's no real story. There's no real... Initially, I thought the game felt a little bit like Axiom Verge 2, but in reality, the more that I played, the more I realized that Axiom Verge 2 is very Metroidvania, and Animal Well is more so, if you're playing at the level we were playing it, it's very much a bunch of puzzles linked by a Metroidvania world. I wouldn't argue that the puzzles necessarily define the world, or like Axiom Verge 2, the puzzles and the way that you traverse the world are very intrinsic to the whole Metroidvania nature of the game itself. The game is a puzzle, whereas I think Animal Well, like the level we were playing, it was going around the Metroidvania world, going puzzle to puzzle, which I thought was great and I really enjoyed. But it's definitely more puzzle than Metroidvania, and that's fine, and it works, and I really, really like this game.
Yeah, I think this thing happens sometimes where a game will be absolutely lauded and you hear masterpiece thrown around.
So we're already going with different expectations, right?
Totally, yeah. And so you come to the game with a certain level of, okay, well, I'm sitting here waiting to be blown away, basically. And I think that's a little bit of an unfortunate thing with the way that Animal Well was talked about for me specifically, is that like it feels like it is laser targeted at me in terms of it's a Metroidvania, my favorite genre. It is a layered puzzle game. I love puzzle stuff, and I think that a game like Tunic is one of my favorites the last few years because of that deeper kind of like just under the surface, like just dig a little bit and you'll find something really, really smart and clever in here. And so like I was hearing a lot about it and I was like, well, this is I'm gonna love this game. Clearly it's just exactly made for me. And I like it. I think it's good. I think it's a good game. And I think that what it actually made me realize is that the things I value in Metroidvania, is the thing that genre really clicks with me in my brain, is fundamentally at odds with what Animal Well is trying to do. Because Animal Well, like you said, is more of a puzzle game put into a Metroidvania setting, as opposed to a puzzle game that I think takes advantage of the nature of a Metroidvania. And for me, Metroidvanias always thrive on their ability to increase my love of exploring the space. Like, I love the idea of a Metroidvania when you are weak and don't have anything, and you see stuff and you're like, one day I'll have a double jump and I'll come back there and I'll conquer that. And that kind of gradual ramp of, I get more powerful, I kind of like, I also just really love just casually blasting past enemies in Metroidvanias. There's like a real fun satisfaction to be like, as I go, I have to deal with these threats, and so I'm killing stuff as I go, and I'm potentially leveling up if it's a more Castlevania inspired version of that game, or of that type of game. And eventually I get to the point where, you know, before it would take me 10 minutes to cross this map. Now it takes me 2 minutes because I've opened up 3 shortcuts and I have an ability that makes me go mega speed across the screen, and I have this other thing that makes me so powerful that I can just walk into enemies and they die. And like, that is, for me, the journey that Metroidvania takes me on that makes me really engaged and satisfied. And Animal Well is much more focused on your brain getting bigger and you understanding the world more, as opposed to your character getting better and you feeling better about traversing the world. Because at the end of the day, you do have the same like movement abilities by the end that you had at the beginning, really. And I think there are some movement things that are tied to certain items, but for the most part, these items are weird and unique, and I've never really seen anything like them in a video game before, and I think that's very commendable and to be lauded. And I think it's super creative, honestly, when it comes to the way you use them. But I think part of the reason why they're in this game and not in another Metroidvania is because they serve no purpose in other Metroidvanias, right? Like, the purpose in other Metroidvanias is movement, momentum, improving combat ability. And when none of that stuff is relevant, then you can give a character a fucking slinky and be like, okay, what do I do with this, right? And because these are tools for puzzle solving, and for nothing else, really, right?
And I definitely think that Tunic's a great comparison where I think Tunic is just a way better Zelda game than Animal Well is a Metroidvania game.
Yes.
And Tunic does that in a number of ways where the traversal, you do get more powerful, you do get stronger. There is that kind of like, Zelda-likes and Metroidvanias are so comparable because they both have that kind of power curve and easier traversal as you get more powerful, generally speaking. And I think Tunic does a great job of, you get more powerful, it becomes easier to traverse the world, you learn secrets that relate to traversal, like the warp and things like that. And the world feels smaller and smaller the further you get into that game because you can conquer it more easily. So the game feels a lot more Zelda-like than this game does Metroidvania, where, like you say, it's about your brain getting bigger in Animal Well, but your brain getting bigger in Animal Well doesn't speed up the speed at which you traverse the world, whereas it does in Tunic, where there is still that aspect of, you're not just getting more powerful, you're also getting more knowledgeable about the world. And it just feels like a stronger balance, and it appeals more to game design that I'm into. Yeah,
there's more cohesion there, definitely. Right? Like, it feels like there's always been a secret kind of history with Zelda style games where the original was like, oh, you fucking burn the bush and you open a doorway down and all that sort of stuff, right? So it feels like it's in keeping with the history of the genre. And Metroidvania certainly have secrets as well, but those secrets are usually, here's an energy tank, here's a missile pack, right? It's a secret, but it's like a thing that's going to help you get stronger, essentially, as you go along. And yeah, I think there's just a little bit of a disconnect there in terms of, I think that, like, when you have an idea in a Metroidvania and you're like, oh, I need to go back there, it's often a lot easier to just do that. And there are ways to do that in this game. There is a fast travel system, and you can unlock that, but can take a little bit of time. And there's certainly been moments where I'm like, oh man, I have to get back there. It's going to take me a little while to do that. So yeah, that definitely came a bit of a stumbling block. But I think there's a lot of really clever stuff in here. And I think one of the things that stood out to me was the ways in which the items that you have, and so I guess on a spoiler point, like, there are a couple of items that we'll reference directly. There are some that I think are a bit more, that haven't been shown, that we'll probably keep a little more kind of vague on, but stuff that has been shown, like, previously in trailers and stuff, we'll probably chat kind of specifically about. But there are these items and you get them, and there are different ways in which they can be used that you wouldn't immediately think of, and sometimes you can just accidentally your way into finding out. And that happened to me, I think, 2 or 3 times, where I used an item and it did something interacting with a part of the world where I was like, oh, I didn't know that that's what could happen, and I don't know the game would have ever told me. It just happened as a result of experimentation. So the example I'll give is that the yo-yo that I had, I used it just to like explore around a space, and the yo-yo suddenly destroyed something, and I was like, oh, I didn't realize that could do that. And I think that was a fun realization, because as soon as I realized that it could destroy that thing, I just started thinking, oh, I've seen this stuff in other places in the world. I'm going to go and, the next time I get there, or if I come past it again, now I know to try this thing on it. I think that's quite cool. I think that's definitely a really cool concept of giving you these items that are so esoteric and strange that you don't know what their actual real purpose is.
I absolutely love that about this game, is just how weird the items are. Like, the first item I got was a slinky. I absolutely loved how you use the slinky. There are so many different ways you can use the slinky, and I think I'd argue the slinky is where I think the game's puzzles are at their strongest, where you're just kind of setting off mechanisms and contraptions and things that will just confuse you and be difficult to get past, but then you're like, wow, that was so satisfying. And like I said to Caroline, who's played a couple of Metroidvanias, I don't think she's hugely into the genre. I was like, oh my god, I got this item in my game, a slinky. She's like, what, a slinky? And then I played more of the game, and I said, Caroline, guess what the next item I got was? And she was like, I don't know, a yo-yo. And then and she was right. Like,
that's very funny.
Yo-yo, but
that is very funny.
She had absolutely no idea, and I was like, how the hell did you guess that? She's like, oh well, you said like a kid's toy, so I just came up with another kid's toy. I was like,
yeah,
I never thought of that. So yeah, I think, and that's why I do think this game is like Axiom Verge 2, is where it just gives you really off the wall things that are not traditional to the genre of Metroidvania that I love. It's not just here's the more powerful gun. I really respect that about this game. I think it's really cool, and the game definitely does force you to use items in unusual ways, even to progress that mainline story, which I loved. And a couple of them I had to like look up a couple of things, but generally not much. And I do generally think that the items and the way that you use them is where this game is at its best.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that the cool part from a non-linear design perspective is, we were talking about this on the Discord, and I don't think anybody had the same order of finding items. And I believe like multiple of us had 4 different separate items that were the first item we found. Like the yo-yo was the first item I found. I didn't find the bubble wand until like 3 hours into the game, and I believe that was the first item you found. Oh no, you found the slinky first.
I think first was my slinky, then yo-yo, then bubble wand, then other stuff.
Yeah, other stuff. But I think I can't remember who it was on Discord, but someone found the bubble wand first, and I was like, you clearly went into that room that I went into, and you clearly figured out that puzzle immediately, where I went into that room and I was like, I don't know what to do here, so I'm leaving. And that's what happened.
That's what I did with that room.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do, I'm going to leave. And so either you figure that puzzle out straight away and your first item becomes the bubble wand, or you go somewhere else and your first item is either the yo-yo or the slinky or something else completely, entirely, which is cool. And I don't know to what extent, like how much sequence breaking there is in this game. I was able to go a very long time exploring and finding stuff without having had an item. Like I feel like it took me a good hour before I got my first item, which is quite a long time. And I think the world has to be designed in such a way to where it accommodates a player who wants to do or somehow finds themselves doing that. I think it's really smart, and clearly a lot of work was put into the thought of the way this world is designed, especially when I was looking up YouTube videos afterwards, and one of the secrets is tied to the structure of certain things on the map itself, and I was like, this is mind-blowing, like some of the stuff that they were doing. So yeah,
I really did enjoy playing as much of this as I could without help or guides or anything, and it was a very strong game to just work out, oh, well, yeah, I bounced off this puzzle, I guess I'll come back to it later. And every time, for the most part, it worked. Like I would just go and do something else, come back, do that thing a bit later, and it was just very satisfying in a not in a Metroidvania way, but just in a like, well, this puzzle was hard, but now I understand how that puzzle works kind of way.
Yeah, definitely. And I think just for me, the parts that were a bit more frustrating, chafing, were where it's the thing I talk about a lot, which is where you know what a puzzle solution is, you know what you have to do, but it's the execution that starts getting in the way of it. And much as I did enjoy those slinky puzzles, a lot of them ended up being the type of puzzles where you had to have quite precise timing and quite precise movement with your character.
And sometimes you could get crushed and
and that causes instant death, right? Which takes you really far back, which is the most frustrating.
I think this game kind of could have done absolutely fine. This is going to be heresy for some people. Could have been a level-based puzzle game.
Yeah,
like aspects of some of the most fun parts I had where you're going room to room, solving puzzle to puzzle, feels very level-based, and in that sense, the troll of dying and going through multiple rooms to get back to that point didn't feel as satisfying perhaps as it could have. I don't know.
Yeah, I do. It's such a weird thing because, like, yes, you could do that, but I also do think there is a certain charm in the way that it is a world, and I think
the world is a lot more living and breathing,
right?
By being Metroidvania, more so than the mechanical benefits of being Metroidvania, perhaps.
Yes, it's more of a vibe and a feel thing.
Yeah,
and
I agree totally.
Yeah, like I think that's probably why it works a bit better in that way.
The world does look great and just
feels
beautiful. Damp, and like the sound design is so good, and like it's a very cool world and game in that sense.
Yeah, I think that's the best part of it. I think the soundscape of this game is tremendous. Like some of the weird noises that come out of these animals, and like
it's very music light, like it's to emphasize sound design of drips and drops and things.
Right, very pure atmosphere in that way, and also just like visually very kind of interactive. Like you move past things in the environment and they, like, all the little bits of grass move really nicely, and you know, if you're playing on Switch, you can touch the touch screen and stuff just moves on the screen naturally. Like there's a physics to this game, like a lot of there's physics involved in a lot of kind of aspects of it, and the physics engine it just makes the game feel a bit more alive in that sense, right? And a bit more like it could do some weird stuff to you, which it does end up doing at a certain points. But yeah, I think that would be my biggest frustration, is those moments where I'm doing this platforming gauntlet, and the game does have serviceable platforming, I think, but there are certain moments where there's a late game sequence that I think is the worst part of the game.
I think I agree.
That made me extremely frustrated. That requires you to be chased by something, and you are chased for an extremely long time, and as you are being chased, you are having to do precise platforming jumping puzzles that it feels like the game was designed for you to slowly do them at your own pace without having something chasing after you. And as soon as you introduce an element of speed and trying to do things under duress, it makes it suddenly very unenjoyable, and I found that was quite a dampener on that part of the game, because there's a couple of times that happens, and I think it's mainly in the back half really, and I didn't like it anytime it came up. And I understand the desire to create pressure and to create a tense sequence, but I think because the game is, as we've said, so fundamentally deliberate and puzzle driven in that way that you're thinking about it and you are taking your time to work out what to do and then you do it, that stuff under pressure I've never found enjoyable, and I think it just chafes against each other as like design ideas. Basically, I think they're fundamentally incompatible, and I think it was a poor design decision to have that stuff be in there. On a personal level, it just didn't work for me. I think
I totally agree. It just kind of juxtaposes with the satisfaction of the slow, methodical puzzle solving that was kind of my highlight of the game, and it just kind of threw that back in my face a bit, and it comes back, and it's not fun. Basically both those sequences, I looked up a guide on YouTube and just kind of still took me a few times, because like you said, it's not just about knowing where to go, it's about enacting it, like doing it, and it's hard, and I didn't like it, and I'm fine at platforming, I should say, and I think if it was just the platforming, I would have been okay. If it was just the working out where to go and what to do, I'd be okay. It's the combination that just falls flat on its face. I think it's not a good moment at all.
We're not in a Mario versus DK trying to eat steak with a spoon situation here, but I think there's an adjacency of like these are not two great tastes that go great together. No. This is oil and water, right? And I think that's the thing that really just doesn't work. But yeah, I do think, like, to its credit, there is just a lot of mystery about this game, and I think it does a tremendous job of just instilling that sense of wonder and being like, okay, I'm fighting a quote unquote boss, I guess, but it's like this giant animal, and like I don't know what I'm supposed to do here, and so you're just trying to figure out like what is the scenario and how do I get around this, and is there something I'm missing, and like coming across like things that say you need this random item, and I'm like, what is that item? I don't know what that is. And I appreciate a lot of the kind of like the in-world nature of it, where, you know, a lot of people have talked about there's no text in the game. There is text, and the text that does come up is like, if you're in a room that's completely dark, the game doesn't let you bring the map up, which I think is a really interesting thing, because it feels diegetic in that way of like, oh, my character actually has this map in this world, and when I bring it up, it's my character looking at it. And so when I'm in a dark room, the character can't open it because they can't see what's on the map, basically. I thought that was, you know, you could see it as frustrating, but I actually thought it was actually kind of a cool idea to ground you a bit more in that space and to lend the world a bit more of that tangibility and sense of mystery. I thought that was pretty cool. So yeah. And I think like the secrets in this game are very, it's this whole, like, there are these eggs, right? The eggs are a thing, and you find eggs and you're like, what is this egg for? I don't know what it's for. And then you kind of figure out like, oh, you should take these eggs somewhere, and then you're going to start unlocking some stuff by finding these eggs. And I think like that's the point for me where Tunic kind of surpasses it in terms of my interest of like going deeper on a thing, because I did enjoy it a good amount, but I realized that the way that this game is structured, the way in which we've already talked about how, you know, traversal can be a little frustrating, or it can take a lot of time, and, you know, just going and searching places takes up a lot of time. To do the next layer of kind of understanding and puzzle solving, it is a bit of a collectible hunt, and that's not what Tunic did. Tunic was far more like, okay, there is a collectible nature to this, which is the pages, but throughout the entire game, I feel like that there are far fewer of those to collect, and also it feels like it's embedded more within the final mystery that you solve.
It's just way better breadcrumbing, really, isn't it? It's just that gradual interest to keep you wanting to go on more.
Yeah, and I think there's a coherency to it that it just ties together better with the entirety of the game versus, I think finding eggs is like, it's a level of secrets that then lets you unlock another level of secrets that are not related to those in any way, right? And so I think that for me where it caused a bit of a disconnect. And also there's 64 of them, and like by the end of the game I think I had 25. So
I had like 17, 18.
Right,
like,
yeah. And so I think that's a bit of a demotivating factor in that I wasn't enjoying the kind of regular moment to moment of getting places in this game, and so much of the back half would have just involved that I was like, well, I'll just watch a YouTube video. And I think it's unfortunate because I think there is some really clever stuff. I would have loved it if I was able to kind of jump past the egg collecting phase of it and get to the other stuff in a way.
It goes to 100 a bit quick, and we've looked up a lot of that later game YouTube stuff, and it's awesome. It's absolutely awesome.
It's incredible. Yeah, honestly, like I can see why people are so in love with this game, but the barrier to entry, I think, is just a little too high for most people.
And like Tunic is a hell of a lot more accessible from a puzzle perspective on that real deep peeling back the layers kind of thing. And for our puzzle skill level was a lot more satisfying and interesting to do. And like you had to nudge me a bit with quite a lot with the Tunic stuff, but I still felt like I was achieving it and finding this out and got there in the end. It was really satisfying. Like if you beat this Nbz and had to nudge me to kind of like,
oh my god,
you wouldn't be nudging me, you'd just be doing it for me.
I'd just be telling you what to do. Yeah, exactly.
It's really, really, really tough. And I'm not against the game for that, and I think the mainline game and getting to the credits is awesome. I had a really good time. Like I think a lot of the industry is probably sitting around a 9 out of 10. I'm probably on like an 8. Like I still really think I think it's a very good game. I just there's a few things where I think this game could be better.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I think it's super smart. It's a fun time, and I enjoyed it. But yeah, I think it all comes back to that, like, expectation versus reality, where you go in and you're like, right, so this is a masterpiece, let's see.
Yes.
Like you're like, all right, go on, fucking prove it then, mate, are you a masterpiece? And
but if you're playing this game in the embargo period and no one else is saying it's a masterpiece yet, right, it's arguably a more magical experience depending on how you find the puzzles going,
I think so, because you don't really know where it's going, and you're like, I need to keep digging deeper. And I think that's definitely a cool thing to be a part of. But yeah, I can't remember if Cocoon reviews had come out before I started playing that, because it was a Game Pass Day 1 thing, so I kind of just jumped straight into it.
I feel like it was a slow drip on reviews, to be honest. I don't think it had a ton day 1, and then gradually the swell of this game is absolutely awesome was a slower paced one, whereas I feel like Animal Well had a larger cohort of
kind of out the gate.
Day 1.
And I think it's also the time of year, because I think Cocoon came out like end of the year more. So
I mean, coming out in 2023 was its first mistake.
Very true.
The most loaded year of all time.
Yes.
So I think Animal Well definitely had that on it.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I think it's worth checking out regardless. So it's on Switch. Also runs really good on Switch. I think we both played the Switch version. So
I think it would run well on a Nokia 210. Like it's that kind of game. Like it's really low.
I think it's only 34 megabytes.
Yeah, it's tiny.
Which is tiny. It's actually smaller than Balatro. Fun fact: Local Thunk wanted Balatro to be 10 megabytes. That was his goal for launch. Unfortunately, because it had so many languages in it, that added up to, I think, 70 megabytes, which is what Balatro ended up being.
Well, Animal Well has no text.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. Should have had no text in Balatro, then it would have been under 10 megabytes. But yeah, it's very fun. We live in this era where indie games are like, yeah, mate, you could fit me on a fucking like floppy disk, basically, which is great.
Call of Duty comes along, it's like 140 gigabytes or something ridiculous.
Yeah, it's crazy. So yeah, it's Animal Well. It's a cool game. All right, Bally. I have played a Nintendo game that came out in 2024.
What?
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. They're still making them, apparently, over there at the Big N. So I wanted a game for Japan, and I had a voucher that was going to expire. So I, last year, bought Tears of the Kingdom through the voucher program because it was way too fucking expensive anywhere else. So I was like, I'm just going to get this for the voucher, which meant I had a second voucher sitting around. And I was like, what do I spend this voucher on? And I decided I was going to get Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door. Guess what? Couldn't get that because it came out after the expiration date of the voucher. Expiration date, even though you could pre-order on the eShop, but they wouldn't let me use the voucher for fucking reason. So instead I got Princess Peach Showtime, which I was like, guess this is my second choice.
Okay.
But you know what? I had a really good time with Princess Peach Showtime, and I think, honestly, it was probably the best choice I could have made for a trip abroad, because what you want when you're on holiday really is like a game that you can easily jump into, that doesn't require a lot of thought, that can be played with the volume off when you're in a room with your family and don't have to like have stuff going crazy. My mom complains all the fucking time when volume is off. Like, it'll be at 1 inch of volume on a thing and she'll be like, why can't I hear that? And I'm
you should be wearing headphones around your family is the answer.
Well, no. There's situations where this is not applicable, but
okay.
But regardless, so I found that Princess Peach Showtime was just a really good game where, you know, I'm sure the music's great. I didn't have to listen to it, and it is level based, and it's like you go into a level, you do a level, you feel accomplished, and you move on, and you know that's a great thing to pick up and play, and it's easy to just, you know, pause it, put it in sleep mode, do all that good stuff. And yeah, I think this game is really cool, and I think like it is. I totally agree with a lot of the review scores out there of like it's like a 6 or a 7 or whatever, but I think it's a 6 or a 7 that I appreciate a lot of aspects of it. I think there's a creativity here that they are really trying to go for, which is, okay, we've got Peach in these various different costumes, these different outfits, and each one is going to do something slightly different. And the ones that I think don't work as effectively are the ones where it gets a bit more minigame adjacent and the actual gameplay feels less satisfying. But the ones that are a bit more kinetic, I actually think were really good. Like Ninja Peach has a lot of kind of fun elements where as a ninja you can kind of blend into the background, and Peach like brings up this little kind of cloth that blends you in like you're a chameleon, and you kind of like scoot across a wall. When you go underwater, she has this amazing animation of like a straw where she's like breathing through the straw just above the water's surface. She has like this kind of quick like dash move. There's a lot of like platforming, fun little puzzle areas, and none of it is hard or challenging or complex in any way. But it's really nicely animated, and you see the care and tension that's gone into it.
Is it more actiony or puzzly, or just depends on the costume?
I think it depends on the costume, really. Yeah, like the Kung Fu Peach, Ninja Peach, Wild West Peach, like a lot of those feel more actiony because they are, we're gonna ride a horse and do this whole kind of train sequence. And it's nice because there are those custom sequences in there where one part of it will feel more like an auto runner and you'll be like kind of getting around. The Ice Skater Peach I actually really enjoyed. Like some of the animations here are just really fantastic. Like the way in which you sometimes turn around as Peach when she's ice skating, and she does that kind of backwards skate that ice skaters do where they're kind of like half tilting their head to the back and they're skating backwards, but because you're like moving with the flow of it, she sometimes just, the animation makes more sense for her to just go into that backwards momentum. So much care and attention, I think, and it shows like Good Feel obviously have a lot of experience with great looking games. I think they often make really great looking games that appeal usually to maybe a younger audience and to a crowd who are just like kind of first getting into games in that way. I think the last few games have all followed that trend with the Yoshi kind of crafted stuff as well as Kirby's Epic Yarn previous to that. Really, Wario Land Shake It is the only, I would say, aimed at an adult fan base game that they've made in the last few years of their kind of Nintendo history. So this very much falls in line with that. And yeah, I can't fault any of that art stuff. I think it's really tremendous, and I just really enjoyed seeing that. I thought it was super cool. So
do you have a best and worst costume?
So I think the ones that don't work as well are the cooking stuff where you're baking things, because I think, like I mentioned with the demo, it is very Mario Party-esque in the way that it's like, okay, here's basically a mini game where you just have to copy this cake. Here's a mini game where you have to hold down a button to bake a cake and then get the cookies and put them on a tray. And none of it was mechanically interesting enough, and I think that just made it drag a little more than some of the other sections. And then the other one was Detective Peach, which I was kind of a little bit interested in, but I think when you have a game that is trying to do kind of fun detective solving stuff, but it's aimed at kids or a younger audience or an audience who is just like wants a bit of an easier on-ramp, there's little you can do to make that interesting. And so it was often slow walking around talking to characters who are not very well written or interesting because, you know, it's a game with these weird like big nosed like, I don't know what they are. They're these creatures that were invented for this game, but none of them have any, you know, personality to them. They're just like they're like, what if Toads in the modern era of Paper Mario they were these guys with just big noses, giant noses, and that, yeah, it's just not very engaging. I think the detective stuff. It's like, oh, okay, this person is like, it's some of those puzzles of like, he is lying because he has a red nose. This guy in the middle, he's always telling the truth. Like one of those puzzles, which I don't love in the first place, but very simplified versions of that. And so, yeah, I think a lot of the detective side of things wasn't to my taste generally.
At least on the bright side, the ability is not tied to her emotions.
Yes, definitely. And I think that is a market improvement. And I appreciate that, like, this game I think begins quite slow and I think has a bit of a slow on-ramp. Once you have acquired an ability for the first time, then the next level you jump into with that ability, you have it from the beginning. So it feels a bit more like, okay, let's just get into things, which is nice. But I really like some of the other ones, like Master Thief Peach was a really interesting one, where you're like a thief in the shadows, but you have a grappling hook, and that grappling hook gets used in a lot of like traversal. Any of the more movement-focused, action-y, like kind of like auto-runny sequences. So I would say Cowboy Peach, Ninja Peach, Kung Fu Peach, Master Thief Peach, all those I thought were really fun, and I always engaged with those and looked forward to those. And then there are some that are like interesting, like Mermaid Peach, where you're underwater and you control fish in the background by singing. So you hold down to sing, and suddenly Peach takes control of a fish in the background, and you move that fish around to do certain things. And I found that pretty cool. And there's a bit of a music rhythm game to it as well. There's just a lot of genres shoved in here, which I think is a nice touch. And none of them go very deep, none of them go very complex, but they're all enjoyable to certain degrees, and I think some of them are, like I said, better than others, but I just had a good time with it. I think it's a very relaxing, chill game, and I think there's some just really nice visual spectacle to it. Like, the end of this game has some pretty bombastic stuff, and you're like, oh wow, they went the extra mile here to make this feel grand. And and there's a fun kind of aspect of unlocking different patterns for Peach's dress, and like changing the color of your star companion, and just fun little things in terms of the collectibles. I would say my biggest frustration with the way collectibles are handled in this game is all the levels are quite they have sections to them that are basically unskippable cutscenes, and so I believe if you replay through those levels, you have to still sit through that stuff of like, I get it, because like they're trying to on-ramp stuff, and they're trying to like build it up and be like, oh, arrive here, what's going on in the village, there's some people, then you go along, then you get your power up.
You should always have the option to skip a cutscene, right?
Yeah, and I think some of these are not really cutscenes, they're more just like
introducing the gameplay.
Yeah, those kind of things. And so on subsequent playthroughs, if you want to go and get the collectibles, it necessitates you going through those things again, and so it just means that it's the opposite of what Mario Wonder did, which Mario Wonder, I think one of the strengths of that game is it is so fast to jump into a level, grab the collectible you want, and get out of there. Like, it is instant almost with how quickly you can just dash through those. And here, there are usually, I want to say, between 10 and 12 of these collectibles in a level. And so if you miss one, it's like, I have to go through the whole level again to get that one, and it's going to take me at least 10 minutes because these levels are quite long for the most part. So I think that's one of those things where pretty immediately off the bat I was like, well, I'm not collecting all these. I'm going to try and get as many as I can as I go through. And sometimes that can be a little frustrating, because sometimes there are sequences that are, like that auto running as a cowboy sequence, and you're like chasing behind stuff, and sometimes you'll be on one bridge and they'll be on a bridge in the background. And if you have made a decision to be on that foreground bridge and the background bridge has a star on it, then the best thing to do is to just die and restart the sequence and then go and collect it again. Like, you almost have to treat your lives as a resource if you want to be collecting everything first time, which I just wouldn't suggest doing. I don't think it's worth it. I think it's best to just play as, like, try and get as much as you can, and that you'll get the most out of the game doing it that way, but don't be too annoyed if you don't get everything. I don't know that there's a great reward for doing that stuff, but the one thing I thought was a little interesting was there is like this basement of harder levels that you unlock, and I thought that those were all optional. Turns out they aren't optional. So it's a bit of a weird thing where if you want kids to beat this game, there are certain bosses that I found quite tricky in terms of like the precision you have to have with them.
This is all pre-credits stuff.
This is pre-credits, yeah. And so you get to the top of the theater. It's like a floor system. So like every theater floor has 4 levels, and so each job of the 10, I think 8 or 10, has 2 levels to them, and then every single one has a third harder level in the basement. And I thought, oh, these third harder levels, they're just for people who want to do them. No, you get to the top of the theater and they're like, I guess we can't get to the big bad because we don't have all the energy we need, and all the energy you need is going down to the basement and doing all those levels as well. So you do have to do them if you want to get to credits. Basically, it is mandatory to do it, which I'm fine with. You know, I was doing them anyway, just matter of course. I think it's a bit of a weird decision when this game is so clearly otherwise focused on a younger audience that they that they decided to do that. But yeah, I think there's a lot of merit here. There's a lot of fun stuff, and I do think I'm probably kinder to it because it was, you know, I was playing it at a point where I was in Japan, I was having a great time, and I think I'm just more willing to be forgiving in that mindset, as well as being like, you know, I'm just enjoying it. You know, I'm just having, sometimes you just like to do a little fun game, something to keep your fingers busy, you know, and just see some nice animations happen. And that's kind of what this is at the end of the day. So, you know, I'd recommend it as a travel game. I think it's a really nice travel game, and I'm glad that I played it. So, yeah. Nice. Princess Peach Showtime. It's good. Bally, you, while I've been away, you've been trying to hit some classics, or at least some games that I have played in the past.
It's
one of
definitely
them,
a classic.
Yeah, yes. SteamWorld Heist, the codename Steam of its series, one might say.
What are your memories of playing SteamWorld Heist, Nbz? Because I'm pretty sure you played it in and around its launch back in 2015, which is 9 years ago.
Don't say that. What the fuck, man? That's not real. I played it on 3DS.
Am I right in thinking it was your favorite SteamWorld game at the time?
I think at the time it was the second SteamWorld game, so yeah, I think it had to be. So yes, at that time that's true because there were only two, but well, there were three technically if we count SteamWorld Tower Defense that nobody talks about. But yeah, I liked it. I liked it a good amount. I thought it was a really clever game, and I think it was it just had that fun like angling of shots aspect to it, but it still had that kind of sense of randomness almost with the way that things shake.
Strategic skill as in positioning, but still action in terms of let's aim a gun kind of skill at the same time. Yeah,
I thought it was pretty good.
I think SteamWorld Heist is my favorite like tactics game, as in like turn-based tactics, not like Fire Emblem tactics or Advanced Wars tactics, but in terms of like shooter tactics, when you compare it to like Rabbids or Codename Steam, it's kind of in that genre, but obviously 2D, and
the kind of XCOM adjacent ones. Right?
And it's less as good as like the in moment fighting is. It's the leveling and the guns that you get, and the character leveling and the abilities that the characters get from leveling, combined with the random loot drops, combined with the pacing of getting like water. Like this game is just, I felt it was just paced absolutely perfectly. It was a perfect pacing. It's the perfect difficulty. A lot of the lengths of the levels are very short, like 10 minutes, 12 minutes max, maybe on like the longest one, maybe 15 minutes max, perhaps on the longest ones. But I feel like it meant the designers could be bolder in the neat stuff they do per skirmish without frustration. Because yes, if you restart a level, you'll lose currency, lose water, but in terms of me wasting my time and the amount of time it takes to get through the game and get to the next skirmish, like it feels very efficient, very well put together compared to Codename Steam or Rabbids. Like some of those longer levels, if you mess up and you go start at the beginning again, it's like, man, this sucks. Like this level was so long and strategic, and you know, something unexpected happened, and now I'm going back through a 20, 30, 40 minute, maybe not 40 minutes, but a long level. And for me, SteamWorld Heist, 3 worlds, each world kind of like 3, 4, maybe 5 hours max. Like it just felt very well put together, very well paced, and I had an absolute blast. Like I am so pumped for SteamWorld Heist 2 coming out in August, and people need to play SteamWorld Heist. Shout outs again to Matt Lorgan, because he said, oh yeah, this game's on sale for like £1.50, and I'm like, I've been meaning to like get to SteamWorld Heist as the one SteamWorld game other than the Tower game, obviously, I've not played. So I was very glad to pick this up on Switch, and I would highly recommend it. It's going to be high on my Go TT Dakoti list. I'm saying that here right now.
All right, yeah, no, that sounds great. It's been, like you said, it's been 9 years since I played it, so I don't have the greatest memories of what I actually thought of it, but I'm sure you can go back into the podcast archive and listen to what I said at the time.
Are you interested in SteamWorld Heist 2?
Yeah, I am, but I don't know. I feel like over the years, like I like the SteamWorld games a good amount, but I feel like there are other games in those spaces that they're tackling that I tend to like more. Like, I think it was interesting because SteamWorld Quest I really loved at the time, and then I played Slay the Spire, and I'm like, okay, I see. I see, like, where the refinement in this specific type. Like, I feel like other games that specialize in the genres that the SteamWorld ones dabble in are always better than them, or at least I prefer them for the most part. Like, I think SteamWorld Dig 2 is a really fun game.
Yeah,
it wouldn't make my top 10 Metroidvanias, and likewise with SteamWorld Quest. I played a lot of card games at this point, and I don't think it ranks as highly as I once thought of it as. So I think they're really great at like introducing people to genres, but I then think that the games that kind of like branch off of those genres once you get deeper into them tend to outshine them. But I still really respect those games a lot.
I think Heist has the advantage that the turn-based shooter tactic style game isn't like quite as prevalent, I would argue.
Yes.
Certainly in our circles as Metroidvanias, and now deck builders generally, like SteamWorld Quest. So like, yeah, I think that's what definitely it just sold me on. It just felt fresh. It felt...
There's also not really anything like it because of the 2D nature of it. Like, it does stand out.
It's like Worms.
Yeah, you're totally right. Holy shit, it is fucking Worms.
And that's like... Real, you think 2015 is a long time ago? Worms is old. Like,
mate, we were playing Worms Armageddon in my bedroom in like 1999 or something like that.
Yeah,
I don't know. It was a while ago. I didn't think about it. Yeah, it's just Worms, isn't it?
I think Worms has a lot more like random rebounding of...
Worms was pure chaos. 100%.
Chaos. This is lining up shots. There's a bit of chaos in there. There's still weapons you can get that bounce a bit more.
It's just far more strategic, right?
Like, and Heist 2 seems like it's got a lot more variety in guns and bouncing bomb style things that'll just do all sorts. And I'm looking forward to like the pirate theming and the whole sailing the ship around. I'm never the biggest space fan, to be honest, but I'm not here for like the I'm not here for the space genre, as it were. I'm just here for like some incredibly good gameplay, and I just got hyped every single time a character would reach like a new level, and my tank was just so satisfying to use. And you'd throw him in there. He had all the typical tank moves of like, here's this move where he will anger everyone and he draws all their attention, and in that same move he cannot take any damage. Like, that's just a lifesaver in games like this, where similar to like Codenames Steam, there are points where you're just trying to reach a point versus eliminate all the enemies, and then there's boss fights as well. Like, it's just a really, really solid variety in level design and things like that. And coming to it after Codenames Steam and Rabbids, I still fundamentally believe like the leveling up and the RPG nature of what this game is doing is stronger than those other games. Even if the beat-to-beat fights are maybe on a similar level, the actual leveling up and my desire to come back to this game, I've managed to fit in like this 15-hour game, like just in between playing other stuff, and I felt very motivated to just pick up and play. And that's, again, to do the nature of these 10, 12-minute long skirmishes. It's good stuff. I would highly recommend it. Sweet.
Looking forward to the sequel later this year. There's also SteamWorld Headhunters, I want to say, was announced a while ago.
And I also want to play SteamWorld Build. That's on Game Pass, and is now on console, I believe.
That's really interesting to me that you want to play that, because it feels like a genre that like neither of us have.
But that's why I think the developer changed their name, didn't they? What are they called now?
Thunderful,
right?
Yes, the publisher,
yeah.
That's Image and Form.
Image and Form, yeah. It's that taster of like, I know Image and Form, Thunderful will make a game that I will like regardless of genre, and that's what I think they're so good at. And that's kind of when I jumped into SteamWorld Quest. I hadn't played anything deck building other than real life card games before, and I loved that game. So like I'm that's kind of why I want to try Build. And what's the headshot one called again? That was revealed a while ago.
Headhunters, I think that's their first 3D one, because first 3D game they made was the Gunk. The Gunk, which is
play that as well, to be honest, but.
You don't need to play the Gunk. The Gunk's like, is the Gunk. It's like, it's a 6 out of 10. It's definitely a
6. Okay.
It feels like a stepping stone towards what they want to do with a proper 3D game, I think.
Interesting.
For sure.
Okay.
So Yeah. Although the gunk was okay. It was like a game to play over Christmas, and it didn't require a lot of
games over Christmas lower quality for some
I don't
reason?
know.
Like,
It's just I don't. I feel like it went in one ear and out of the other. Kind of is one of those. But
like gunk.
Like gunk itself.
In one ear out the other.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing about Build is it isn't actually made by Image and Form. It's made by a team that is owned by Thunderful, but it's a different team.
Weird.
So it's a different studio.
Well, they've lured me in with their marketing because it's all the SteamWorld universe.
Of course, yeah, but I think that's kind of what they're doing now. Is that now they have this kind of brand and they've got the oversight on it. They can give it to other developers, kind of. But
it's kind of wild that after 9 years they're coming back to Heist. I think that's a story in and of itself.
It is. I am surprised by that. I thought it was probably one of the ones that didn't do as well for them, so I am surprised that they are coming back to it. But hey, I'm sure they've got some.
Everyone loves
cool
pirates,
ideas.
don't you know that?
Absolutely.
Ali Jr., he's well into pirates right now. He's just like, pirates are the best. And I was thinking, shall we show him Pirates of the Caribbean? And I remembered that's a really scary film.
Yeah, like for a very young child, you should not show them Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, he's still getting freaked out by scenes in Peppa Pig, so I don't think
my
we're
God.
on to Pirates of the Caribbean just yet. But we'll get there.
That's good. All right, great. We got one more video game to talk about, Bally. Of course, everyone can say this name. It is Otogi Katsugeki Mameda No Bakeru Oracle Saitaro no Sainan.
Yes, the Western name.
Yes, of course, yeah. So I refer to it as Mameda no Bakeru, which is, I've talked about one Good Feel game on this episode, and I thought, hey, I'm in Japan. I should buy a Japanese video game. And our friends over at Good Feel did just that. They made a Japanese video game that didn't come out in English, and I thought, hey, I want to check this thing out. I've been hearing a bunch of people talk about it. When it came out, I was looking up like a bunch of stuff on how to get a fan translation going with it and stuff like that. I was just very interested. Basically, this is a spiritual successor to the Goemon games. Now, Goemon is a character who's been part of Nintendo history for a while, and there's Goemon games on the Super Nintendo. I played one of them for an RFN retroactive like a decade ago.
Is he in Crazy Racers?
I think he is in.
He's the blue-haired dude.
I think he might be
because he's a not Konami person.
I think maybe Goemon is. I'm not sure actually. I'm not 100% on that, but
okay.
Goemon does exist.
You know who I'm talking about in Crazy Racers, right?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I can imagine. Yes, in my brain, exactly who you're talking about. I think that might be Goemon. So Goemon is a character who's been around video games for like as long as video games have existed, really. And I played a Super Nintendo Goemon game. There is N64 Goemon platformers out there. It's just a franchise that I don't think we have much experience with, but has been around for a very long time. The founder of Good Feel, I believe, used to work on the Goemon games.
He is in Crazy Racers, just to confirm.
Okay, great.
From Legend of the Mystical Ninja.
Yes, Legend of the Mystical Ninja, Goemon. That, I believe, is the Super Nintendo game that I played. So this is basically like, okay, what if we took that kind of general character, the look of that character, and did a... I'm going to say like Mario 3D World style platformer mixed with a Banjo-Kazooie style thing almost.
Wow, that's two very different genres. That's cool.
Yeah, it's a really weird game, and it's hard to kind of define what it is because some
weird,
levels...
Good game?
Weird, good and weird bad. Weird. Like, I think it is... Sometimes you play a game in Japanese from a Japanese developer and you're like... This is a Japanese fucking video game, right? And what I mean by that is that a lot of games that don't get localized are ones that are so steeped in the lore and mythology of Japanese stuff, where it's like, well, he's a tanuki and there are all these lanterns that are Japanese lanterns around, and a lot of the concepts are just like, is riffing on a lot of Japanese cultural stuff.
So someone at some level has said, I don't think this would work in the West.
Yeah, totally. It's just like, there's too much cultural explaining you have to do with concepts that are so familiar to the native audience that it just would be such a hassle to do it, I think, essentially. Like, your main weapon is like drumsticks, and like you're drumming on like traditional Japanese drums, and like I said, the lanterns are traditional Japanese lanterns, and a lot of the mythology, the whole like this character who transforms into animals and stuff. There's a lot of that just tied up in it. So I understand why they haven't localized it. I think also it's weird because sometimes you go into a level and it's a Star Fox game, and then sometimes you go into it and it's Mario Kart, and I'm like, this is cool. Like, I appreciate that.
Sounds like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Yeah, kind of a little bit. I think it's cool, but I think it kind of lacks a coherent design understanding in some senses. It feels like a game that was made very quickly, and there wasn't a lot of thought that sometimes went into levels. So, for example, I just feel like a lot of these open levels that you go through, you're just running through them, and you can just ignore all the enemies. You don't even have to engage with them and just run towards the end. Like, it doesn't feel like there's really any level design here. Like, there's stuff that looks nice and it's themed nicely, but there's no, like, there are these golden poos you can find that are collectible, and most of the time they're just sitting in the open, and you're like, that's just there. I don't even need to look for it. He's just sitting there. And you have power-ups, so you can turn tiny, which lets you do a really long jump. You can turn into a fisherman, which lets you use these fishing rods to attack enemies. There's a power-up that gives you these big arms that you can punch people with. And there's a meter that goes down that you have to use these power-ups. But I just never have found myself wanting or needing to use them throughout a level, because the enemies all die in one hit anyway. So, like, why do I need a more powerful big punching thing? And maybe later on, because this game is, as I found out, much longer than I thought it was. I thought I was at the end of this game. I was level 15. That's the end. No, I looked up on the internet. I am less than a third of the way through the game. So I was like, oh, actually, I have a lot more of this to go than I realized. And yeah,
you're going to go to the end?
I don't know. I feel like the other thing that holds it back for me is it is very unstable frame rate wise on Switch. It is just... Now, don't get me wrong.
On the Switch? Who'd have thought?
Oh, who'd have thought? This game is gorgeous. It's a beautiful looking game from just a visual standpoint. The character design and animation and some of the fun cutscene stuff that happens is like, wow, this is really nice, especially on the Switch OLED. It just looks gorgeous. But it is so inconsistent frame rate wise to the point where I can't play it for too long because it does start to make me feel sick. So I think that is a bit of a thing that holds it back, and unfortunate, because I do think there's it's wacky and there's fun stuff in here, and it is creative, but I do think that it just lacks an understanding of how to design spaces in a way that is interesting to be explored, and that puts secrets in an interesting way, or even just like has thoughts about where enemies should be placed even, or like what kind of enemies. Like, there's a move you get early on which is a shield that like reflects projectiles, and you proceed to go through like 7-8 levels where you don't need to do that because none of the enemies have projectiles. It's just very weird that they give you these tools and then there's no reason to use them, or nothing that tests your reflexes or use of them. And yeah, like it's the same with like the power-ups, where you get tiny and for the first level you're like, oh, I'm going to go into these little holes in the environment, and then you play 10 levels and you're like, I never used that again. I had no reason to for the entire level. So it's just strange that they give you these things and then there's no level design to support them, so you just don't use them, and so you just run around hitting things with your drumstick, and then you hit the 3 drums, and the end of the level you do a big drum and you kind of finish it. So yeah, I think there's lots of interesting stuff here. I don't know if I'm going to finish it or not. It's 50 levels and I'm at level 15, and
Jesus
I was playing level 15 the other night, and some just really frustrating design decisions came about where I would fall in lava and it would reset me all the way back to a checkpoint that was quite far back. And I was like, I don't know if I've got the patience for this, but I'm glad that I bought it, and I'm glad that I've checked it out, because I do think it's a real curiosity, and it's interesting to see.
I mean, if you're going to go to Japan, you got to buy a Japanese game that you cannot get in the UK.
Yes, exactly.
Unless you're
and
on
I think
the
that
Japanese
was
eShop, I guess. But
right. Yeah, and I think that was the real. Yeah, it's not as exciting doing that. You got to have a physical box that is in a language you don't understand. It's great. But yeah, I think that just comes with the, like, you can see. I think you can see in this game how much influence Nintendo has when it comes to the projects that they co-develop with partners, right? I think we saw this very clearly with Metroid Dread and with Samus Returns compared to Mercury Steam's previous Castlevania game. You know, it's the same team, but they've had oversight from Nintendo. Nintendo has a certain standard of quality that they want to meet, and so Princess Peach Showtime, you know, it's not the most crazy game in the world, but I prefer it a damn sight more than Mameda No Bakeru, and you can see Nintendo's like design ethos and footprint all over that game versus this, where it's like, oh, we wanted to make something and like, I don't know, let's just throw some stuff in a level, you know? Like, it feels like there's a bit more, it almost feels like they were like, all right, 50 people on the team, everyone design a level and we'll just throw them in there. Kind of mix up. Some of them are Star Fox levels. Some of them, like the Mario Kart one, is like you race inside a dog. There's this dog car, basically, and you jump inside the dog car and then you're racing the dog car around a track. That stuff is fun, actually. I do really like the gameplay switch-ups when it changes itself. But yeah, I think overall it's a little underwhelming in terms of the actual overall gameplay experience. But, you know, it's cool, and I'm glad that I checked it out. So that is Otogi Katsugeki Mameda No Bakeru Oracle Saitaro no Sainan. If you would like to look it up for yourself, very easy. Just type that into Google, you'll find it. Well, that's going to do us for the first part of today's show. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back after the break to talk about video games and Japan. We'll see you in a bit. All right, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. We're here once again talking about video games, and this time about a country called Japan.
What's it like being back in the UK, Nbz, where you're not using a bidet on your bum every single day?
Yeah.
That's why I want to know.
As a teaser, if you wanna hear live footage of me using a bidet on the toilet.
I was driving in Ireland and Caroline was in the car and she was like, I can't listen to this. I can't.
I was thinking when you said you were both going to listen to it in the car, I was like, oh, that's cool. And then I remembered, oh, right, I recorded myself using a bidet on the toilet. That's not gonna... It's not a family-friendly...
Yeah, we listened to half the thing driving to Dublin and then the second half driving from Dublin to Westport on the west coast of Ireland. So, yeah, we had a great holiday listening to your holiday. It was
great, yeah. That's good. Yeah, not embarrassing at all. So yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about what game stuff is like in Japan, because there's a lot of it, and there's a lot of cool places that I went and saw, and Bally, I'm sure you can corroborate, given some of your experiences as well. How much arcade stuff did you do when you were in Japan?
Not enough. I thought the few pachinko arcades I went to were just full of smoke and incredibly loud, and there was no way I was convincing Caroline to be in there for any more than like 5 minutes, so we never really...
I think that's the mistake, is pachinko and arcade are separate things. True. And like, we did look at, like, my sister was like, what the fuck's pachinko? I was like, oh, let me show you pachinko. And we went inside and she's like, I don't understand any of this. What is happening here?
It's really loud, isn't it?
Very loud. Yeah. Lots of clacking balls going everywhere.
And then arcade-wise, I couldn't really persuade Caroline to do a ton of arcade stuff. So okay, that's why the grand plan is we're going to get to Japan at the same time as we said, and we can actually live in the arcade. That's the plan.
I want to live in the arcade. Oh my god, I had so much fun. So much fun in the arcade, and I think for me, the stuff that really stood out was the rhythm games. That's where I really found my groove, so to speak. And there's lots of weird rhythm games. There's also lots of other weird types of games. There's stuff just modeled after certain franchises that are big in Japan, and there was like a Gundam game where you had a whole like joystick and like a bunch of buttons. Like, there's a lot of really complex strategy games that people were playing, like loads of wild stuff that you just would never see anywhere else. And a lot of those they were too incomprehensible, because I think they required enough of an understanding of Japanese to know what you were supposed to do. So I didn't really approach those. The nice thing about rhythm games is music is a universal language. And so, yes, there's menus to navigate and all that sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, the button lights up and you hit the button when it lights up kind of deal, right? You know what you're doing. You don't need you don't need to understand what the language is to play those games. I found them the most approachable, the easiest to play. Obviously, we have Taiko no Tatsujin in the UK. There's actually an arcade near my office that has the big taiko drums. So I have played those in UK arcades before, but never like to great degrees. And I think the song selection is definitely different in Japanese arcades. So I did play a good amount of taiko. They had Megalovania from Undertale, which was very fun. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, so there's some good kind of video game related songs that you can play on the big taiko drums. And you know what's really funny is playing the taiko drums at home, because I have the kit, the little drums. There's always this thing of the sensitivity on the rim. And I've always been like, oh, that must be a thing just with, the home drum setup. There's this little bit, you have to hit those a little bit harder on the edges. And it turns out the arcade is weirdly the exact same. And I don't know why. Like, you have to really hit the edges quite hard in order for them to be, kind of get the sensitivity across. And I don't know, I do wish that there was, that those worked a little bit more seamlessly, but I think a lot of those are also due to wear and tear over time. They've been in arcades for so long, and so a lot of them are not going to be as responsive as they probably once were back in the day. But I thought that was an interesting thing, that they're definitely a bit more worn out and had taken more hits, let's say, over the years. But Taiko was good fun. But there are two rhythm games, Bally, that I have to, like, I need to have them in my house permanently. Like, they are just incredible.
This might
and
cost
just
you a bit.
It will cost a huge amount, and also apparently there's a whole subscription thing tied up with it, and Sega own them, and oh god, it's mad. I started looking into it on YouTube, I was like, how much does it cost? And it was like £10,000. I was like,
you can support us on Patreon at the $10 tier for this much.
Yeah, exactly.
Please
fund my rhythm game addiction. So there are two games. They're both by Sega. One of them is called My My. My My is, imagine a screen.
Is it jellyfish related?
No. Okay. Imagine a washing machine. Okay. Imagine the shape of a door on a washing machine. Now imagine a screen that shape. That I could also just say, imagine a screen that's a circle. That would also be another way to say it. but yes, but that's basically what it is, and it's also a touch screen. And then on the edge of that circle around the side, there are 8 buttons, and they are basically just arranged in a pattern, essentially, these 8 buttons. And so what happens is that notes will come from the center of the screen and move towards these buttons. And as a note hits a button, you hit the button. And then it gets crazy where you will start touching the touchscreen. So they will put a bunch of arrows on the touchscreen. And so you hit a button. Sometimes you hold a button, right? So there's different types of stuff in rhythm games. You tap, you hold, all that sort of stuff. But then they introduce this thing where you move your finger on the touchscreen to follow this arrow and round in a big circle, and then tap the button at the end of it. And it's such a cool concept, and the way that they build in the touchscreen elements to it, the way that the buttons come in at the end, I was playing at an advanced level. Now there was fucking master and expert and super expert and all that, but I went up from beginner to advanced, and I was playing some pretty quick songs by the end there, where you're hitting double notes and your fingers are going across the screen and all these patterns. You're paying attention to so many different things. I talk a lot on the audio log about the guys with gloves. Everyone in arcade culture in Japan, they wear gloves, and I was like, oh, that must be like a hygiene thing. No, it's a fucking tactics thing, because gloves slide across these screens like butter. And so when you are trying to do these quick patterns across the screen, the glove allows you a far faster kind of way of doing it. But also, it's also hygienic because everyone's touching these screens. So it's a bit of dual purpose, I would guess. But watching some of these pro Japanese players play the My My machine, it was just like a different world. It was just the way in which their bodies moved and the clacking of the buttons. It was beautiful. It was fucking incredible, just like seeing this performance art on display. My My was just so much fun, and the selection of songs they have is just, there are so many, and so I don't know what any of them are. They're all Japanese songs, but it's really fun to just go past and you like listen to a little snippet and you're like, oh, I like the sound of that one, and then you play it. And it also, I have to say, the rhythm games in Japan, the best value, because a lot of these games cost like 200 yen, 300 yen. A lot of the gachapon machines cost a lot as well. Rhythm games, 100 yen for 3 songs. You get to do 3 songs for 100 yen, which at current conversion rates is 50 pence. It's fucking mad. Like, it is so much cheaper than anything else in the Japanese arcades. And yeah, I got a lot of value out of that by playing those games. So
how busy were these arcades?
I would say they ranged. Like, if it was a certain time of day, like after work or whatever, then they were more busy.
Did you get that businessman lunchtime slot?
Yeah, there's definitely like, I don't know, I went at like weird times of day when people wouldn't be there because I'm on holiday, and so I'm just going there at like 11 a.m. in the morning or like, 4 in the afternoon, which is like less populated, I would say. So I don't think I ever saw a peak population.
Did you find they were a little bit smoky, or were you on smoke-free floors? Or
yeah, there was no smoke at all in arcades. I don't think there is smoking allowed in those arcades. I think it's just in the pachinko places.
That must have changed. Well, there was some arcades where there was smoking that we were at back in.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't encounter any arcades that smelled of smoke at all. Yeah.
Yes, 5 years is quite a long time.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, I do think they are generally quite clean, and like all of Japan, just very, very well kept, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, the interesting thing about the My cabinet is, for some odd reason, they always come as a double cabinet attached together, because it's also for multiplayer. I did see some people doing verses against each other where they both play it for high score, and that's even madder. But for some reason, if one person is playing, you can't have someone else playing on the other side of it doing a different song. They just lock it out. And I'm like, that's so weird, because like it takes away an entire slot in an arcade that someone could be using. I thought that was a little strange, but that's the setup that they have there, basically. It's always 2 machines kind of duct taped together. It's the Wii. It's 2 fucking GameCubes duct taped together is what the My machine is currently. So yeah, that was my favorite. I definitely would like to get one of those. The other one is the piano-based rhythm game called Tunism. And so Tunism is basically, imagine a kind of like a flat touch panel in front of you that's, I don't know, like the length of a keyboard potentially. And
a keyboard?
Not a keyboard, sorry. Yeah, like a mouse and keyboard from a computer, not a keyboard like a musical keyboard. Right. Yes. So like my computer keyboard, let's say, about that length, a strip of kind of a touch screen basically that is, you touch it and stuff reacts basically. And so what happens is, almost Guitar Hero style, notes will come down the lane, but the lane is like, imagine the note is like this tiny little thing, and you have to touch exactly on the touchscreen where that note would kind of hit, but the touchscreen doesn't have segments to it. The touchscreen that you're tapping is this freeform thing, and so you are just kind of like tapping to where you think it is landing, and it's going to react exactly to where your touch is. So it's very precise, and so you can get these moments of doing like both hands going, and you're tapping like a regular beat with one, and you're doing left right with the other, and so you're doing like lots of notes, but you are being very precise with it. And sometimes you are holding down as well, and you're moving on that touchscreen as you're holding it down, because some of the notes kind of like wiggle as they go. They're holding down and wiggling, so you're like moving it as it goes, which is really clever. And there is also a motion sensor above this keyboard where sometimes notes will be lift your hand, where you lift your hand and hold it midair, and it senses your hand in the air, and then you bring it back down. And it felt like a weird magic technology where like this seamless kind of touchpad that you're pressing is exactly doing the notes as they come, and then you're lifting your hand up, you're putting your hand down. It felt like, being like a fancy like pianist, like a rock pianist almost, and playing these mad anime Japanese songs as they came. It was really good fun. I think the problem with that one was the arcades are quite loud, and I don't think the audio on the Tunism cabinet is loud enough. So oftentimes with those, it would be harder for me to hear the songs unless I really leaned in.
Did you recognize the anime songs?
No, not really. Okay. I don't know enough about anime. It was one of my, not my regrets, but like when I was in Japan, I was like, if I knew more about anime, or I had more anime that I liked or appreciated, I think my enjoyment would level up like tenfold, because just the saturation of anime stuff there is off the charts. It is just...
But you can go there thinking you know quite a bit about anime. Like I know next to nothing. You know a hell of a lot of that more than me.
Yeah.
And for you to come back from Japan being like, yeah, there was just so much anime. I had no idea. That
was loads.
It is insane. And I even felt that from like a video game perspective. There were just so many video games, not just anime video games, that were just like, I've never heard of this in my life. And obviously there's a ton of Dragon Quest, ton of Pokemon. They're probably like the big two, I guess. But yeah, it's overwhelming. It's the amount of stuff.
I took a picture of this Switch game that I had never heard of before. No idea what it was. It was everywhere in Japan. It was like more slots for this Switch game of this weird, like, I think he was like a sailor. I think it was like some kind of admiral, and he was like an anime little admiral boy on this front cover. And I had no idea what the game was, and it was like the most popular game. There were more copies of it than like Mario games at Japanese game stores. And I was like, I have no idea what the fuck this is, but everyone supposedly is obsessed with it and buying it, I guess, which I found very interesting. I think the other interesting thing is how much weight they give to Japanese specific games and how much more marketing there is for those. So like, you know, there are some people in the West who know who Falcom are and know what the Ys series is, but like I walked into a shop and there was an entire Ys 10 banner, like just this huge takeover banner of Ys 10, and I'm like, nobody in fucking the West knows what Ys is, but in Japan they have a giant takeover banner for an Ys game, and I'm like, this is mad. Like, this is, and I don't think Ys is even like that massively popular in Japan, but just like the way in which that they show stuff off there, like there was an entire shrine of Dragon's Dogma 2 when I walked into a store. There was Eiyuden Chronicles 100 Heroes, which is the Suikoden spiritual successor. There was a giant banner for that. I'm like, these niche JRPGs in the West are like treated as mainstream popular culture here, which I found super, super interesting. There was a lot of that stuff going on. But yeah, I think the shop going experience was a lot of fun, just walking in and just seeing so many games everywhere. The hardest thing about it is if you're looking for stuff, everywhere does stuff by the spine, and so because it's in Japanese, trying to find stuff is next to impossible. You have to search through and be like, oh, what is this, which is why it took me ages to find Mameda No Bakeru, because
it's wild when you think of the effort put into cover art that they just do that with the spine.
Yeah, totally. And I think it's just because there's just so many games, right? And all the big games get the front-facing displays, and so they're all cover forward, but a lot of the stuff that is, like, I think the version of the game that I got was actually a second-hand copy, because it was much cheaper. I only paid like £16-17 for it, and I think it was because it was second-hand, because I saw it later in another shop for double the price. I was like, this is probably what it costs if you just buy the full thing. So yeah, I think that was interesting, but yeah, going to Super Potato was very fun to go to, just from like I've heard of this place for years and years, and interesting just like how cramped and tiny it is, you know, like you go inside and you're like,
it's wow, got an arcade at the top floor as well. Like
it does, yeah,
tiny retro one. Which
that arcade had a bit of a smell to it, I'll be honest. That was the one that I went into. I was like, don't know about this, but yeah, the just the amount of like well-kept old games is really remarkable. You walk around and you're like, this is a perfect box for a Game Boy Color game, and like the cardboard is as good as the day that it was probably born, you know. I appreciate that a lot. I think it's just, you know, I heard about it all the time, but like Japanese people take care of their things, and that shows in the secondhand culture over there, where you'll go into a shop, and I was very tempted to be like, should I buy a Japanese version of Pokemon Gold? Like, I was looking at that and being like, man, this is like really good condition and everything. But like, I don't know. I did find that with video game stuff, I do want to buy stuff to play it primarily. I'm not a collector type of person, and so I don't just buy stuff for the sake of
turning you into one though.
Well, a little bit, but like really, the stuff that I was buying was more of like as a memento to remember, and
I agree.
and to like have that as a thing, you know.
I'm not a collector, but you know I'm gonna get a Dragonite plushie because that's the thing you do in Japan. Like that,
right? And like, you know, there was so many anime figures and statues, and it did really just stir in me the nostalgia that I have for Dragon Ball Z. And so I was like, I just got to get one of these, you know. I just got to do it. So I did find stuff that I was like, there's a specific thing that I want, and that's the thing that I want to go for, and that's what I want to find. And so I found some stuff, and I'm really glad that I have it, because it's a memento. It's a way of showing my love for that trip and going to the country, but it's also a tie back to like why I wanted to go in the first place, because I love this culture and I love all the stuff that comes out of it, and grew up watching that show. Like, I bought a copy of Card Captor Sakura, so it was called Card Captors on CITV back in the day. That show, it was a localized version. It was the first anime that I ever watched that wasn't Pokemon, Card Captors, and me and my sister watched it all the time, and I have a real nostalgia for that show. It's like the first kind of anime that I knew about before I even knew what anime was as a kid. You know, you don't really understand what it is. You're like, oh, it's another cartoon on TV, but there's something about it that's just different, because it looks different and like it sounds different, and it's drawn in a different way. And so I found the first manga of Card Captor Sakura, and I can't fucking read Japanese, but I bought it because I'm like, I want to have this memento of this thing that I grew up with that was from this place. And so yeah, that's kind of how I approached it in terms of buying stuff. Was I just want to have mementos that are meaningful, but also, hey, maybe one day I will try and learn Japanese, and then I can read these manga for myself, you know. So
totally.
That was kind of the attitude I went in with.
Did you see many people playing Switches about in and around?
You know what? A surprising few. Yeah, not as many as I expected. I definitely expected to see more people either on the underground trains or on the trains between cities to be doing a lot more playing on a Switch or playing some video game somehow. I saw a lot of mobile stuff. The most mad thing I saw, it was just absolute pure insanity. This guy, he's sitting on a train, and in front of him, 4 fucking mobile phones. 4 mobile phones playing what clearly is some kind of mad gacha game. He is doing them all simultaneously. And I'm like, people in Japan just built different. They're just built fucking different.
That's like us with Mystery Gift and Pokemon Gold, Silver, Crystal. Every combination. Gotta get them all.
Like, this man was fully invested. He had all these phones going simultaneously and was just like hot swapping between them. It is one of the most mad things I've seen. And that was the kind of level of game stuff that I saw people doing. It's definitely a lot of mobile stuff, which I think is reflective of the way Japan is as a culture these days. Is there's so many big, massive gacha games, and that's what a lot of people play on their phones. And yeah, I'm sure, you know, Switch is massively popular, but I feel like it's probably a lot of people still playing in their homes these days as opposed to taking it out, because it's not a handheld in the same way the 3DS was. And I think that is a bit of a tragedy of the way Nintendo have gone this generation. Is, yes, it's technically a handheld, it's not a handheld I would ever take on a train, you know? Like,
doesn't sound like that's changing for Switch 2 either, right?
No, I don't think so. I think Switch 2 is going to be bigger, in fact, so I don't think that's going to help. But, you know, as part of the reason I wanted to get, like, the Ambinic and emulation handheld is because I can pop it in a pocket and, like, easily hop on it and pop it out on a train and not have to worry about opening a case, making sure it doesn't get scratched on my bag, like it's too big and unwieldy to, like... I mean, Steam Deck is a whole nother level of that, but even Switch, I don't think is particularly portable in the same way that old handhelds were.
I played some SteamWorld Heist on. I was getting a train through to Glasgow for work, and on the train back, I was just like, I brought my Switch in my rucksack and just played some on the train, and it felt really good. But I agree, for like a train, it's good, less so a tube or a bus, you know.
Yes, like more commuter stuff is much harder. If you're sitting down on a longer train journey, I agree. I actually think that handhelds are like, I've enjoyed playing them the most on those long train journeys. You'll remember I played most of the end of Live Alive on 2 train journeys, and I think that is that was like a really good way to do that. But on a regular commute, it's just not easy to do that, you know. It's a lot harder. It's a lot more messy. So I did just really enjoy going around and looking at stuff. I found like just comfort in just there are so many shops in those areas, and so I went to a couple of different nerd centers, let's say.
Did you go to the shop opposite Super Potato?
There are a lot of shops opposite Super Potato. I went in a lot of them, definitely, yeah. So I probably did, but I don't know which one specifically you're talking about there. I think my favorite shop I found was one that was like, they had a Xenoblade shrine. Obviously, that'd be my favorite one, but they had like a bunch of Xenoblade stuff, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. And they had a whole Zelda section, and they had a whole like Final Fantasy section. It felt like a lot of the IP that I cared about and was interested in, they had these whole sections dedicated to them. There was certainly some niche stuff there as well. Like, I found some Danganronpa t-shirts and things, and I did want to buy them, but I always, with t-shirts, I always find it very hard to, like, judge unless I can try it on, and, like, sizes are never consistent anywhere, so I'm always just, like, a bit wary of that stuff. But yeah, that stuff was really cool. And obviously the Nintendo shops and Pokemon centers that I went to were just, like, the highlight, I think. They were just... It's just so cool to go to a place and be like, wow, this is everything that I have, like, been invested in for my entire life, and there's this entire shop that just has all of it. Like, they
had no Nintendo shops when I went back in 2019. Did
they not have the Nintendo store at all?
No, it wasn't open yet.
Interesting, because yeah, the one I went to was in Shibuya, and it was the top of the Parco building, which is like a shopping center.
Right.
And so the top of that shopping center was Pokemon Center, Capcom store, Nintendo store. And I was like,
they had the Pokemon Center when I went, but I went to the one in Kyoto.
Right. Okay,
that's
that makes sense.
That's where Dragonite's from. So yeah.
Got you. Yeah. So just looking around that store was so fun. Like, I'm like, man, like, they have the Splatoon stuff they had was like rain jackets that were modeled after Salmon Run. I'm like, that's the coolest shit in the world, man. I want to buy that. Like, I tend to be someone who wants to buy stuff with a practical purpose, but is also cool and related to what I like. So I ended up buying stuff like, you know, Zelda mug that was the mug that, you know, has the hearts show up when a hot liquid is poured into it, and Mario hoodie.
That is so great.
Yeah, it's so good. I've used it a couple of times now. It's so fun. You pour it in and you slowly watch it fill up. It's like magic. It's a magic trick. It's so cool. And I bought a Metroid bag that I now use. I've used it like the last 3 weeks when I go shopping. Is I take that Metroid bag to Tesco and just like get everything I need. It's a very sturdy bag, and it's just this silver chrome aesthetic, and it has Samus on the outside. Really cool. So like, I try and get stuff that is I will actually get usage out of, basically. So that was very fun. And yeah, I think the first Pokemon Center, that was maybe my highlight of the whole trip in terms of nerd stuff. Like, walking into that Pokemon Center, I was just like hit with nostalgia.
Your reaction on your audio log is, you can really hear the passion in your voice. You're just like, this is the best day of my life. Just like, this is incredible. Like, me and Caroline had a very good chuckle just how happy you were, the way you sounded.
I was delighted, honestly. Like, I think it was seeing how much there was there, and just the plushies they had. I was like, this is every Pokemon that's ever existed. This is mad. This is fucking everything. Like, the fact that they had a Shuckle, the fact they had Tyranitar, like, I got a Clamperl, I got a Mantike. Like, the fuck? Those are not popular Pokemon, or like ones that people are, you know, talking about all the time, and they had them, and I thought that was pretty crazy. And all of them are just such amazing high quality. Like, they are all so well made, and also
they're not that expensive.
No, especially because, as I was saying, the yen is in the shitter. Like, it is absolutely diabolical, which means that everything was just a lot more reasonable pricing-wise than otherwise would have been the case.
I found them cheap when I went, and the yen was doing great then as well.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, it was... the reason I got 4 of them is because they were like £6 each, and I'm like, that is insane for the quality of these, for like how much care and attention and detail is put in.
You would pay like 40-50 quid easy online or something.
Yeah, totally. At least for those. I mean, those were small ones, so I would say probably 20 to 25 for those, but still, like, it was bargain. It was an absolute bargain. So I was like, yeah, I'm just going to get more of these because it's fun, and I like them, and they're cute, and they're great, and I can put them on a nice pedestal and just look at them, and yeah, I had a great time there. That was definitely a big highlight, and yeah, it was just great seeing all that stuff. I don't know, there's something that I just like about Japan generally is, you know, people still shun nerd culture in the West, I think, just generally, even though it's becoming more and more mainstream. I think there's still that kind of kernel of people being like, oh, that's a thing that weird people, nerds do, right? But something about Japan is like, no, this is just accepted, normal, as part of the culture. I just thought was...
They just fly the nerd flag a lot better. And
exactly, yeah.
It's everywhere. And yeah, it's refreshing, and it's really exciting to be around.
Yeah,
sure.
Exactly. It creates this good energy, and I just felt that very strongly. So yeah, it was great. I encourage people if they have the means to go there at some point.
It's pricey to get there, but once you're there, it's cheap.
Yeah, at least at the moment it is definitely.
At the moment.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's Japan. Any other questions you have, Bali?
I don't know. It's funny. I was like talking to Caroline because there were a couple of points in the audio log where you were like, "Yeah," and then my sister, she didn't want to hang out in the arcade longer, so we headed back. And then Caroline said, "Oh, like you need to go to Japan with Nbz, like Bali."
Yeah.
I was like, I know. I was like, but when am I gonna do that? And then Caroline's like, you should go for like your 40th birthday.
Oh, that's a great idea.
I was like, oh, right. And she's like, yeah, you can. Like, and she said this in the moment. So you got that every podcast listener has to hold Caroline to this.
Okay.
She said, oh yeah, when you're 40, you can have like 11, 12 days where you just go to Japan with Nbz, and you two can do as much arcade shit as you want and do it. So yeah, that's Caroline signed me right up. So
there
Nbz,
you go.
We're doing it. So I've not even worked out what year that'll be. So
no, I have no fucking idea.
I'm 33.
Oh God,
so
don't say
in
that.
7 years time, it's going to be 2032.
Great.
Well,
lock 31. It in. Lock it in.
So lock it in. 2031. Yeah. We're going to save up our pennies and we're going to spend it on
the
arcades and Pokemon and statues.
Yep. Sounds good to me. Well, until that time comes along, thank you, dear listener, for listening to this here podcast. You can, of course, find us around the internet, around the world, by looking up This Nintendo Life in places. We're on Spotify, we're on Stitcher, we're on all those places, so go find us. You can, of course, also write into the show with a question, a comment, a concern, an email, one might say. And Bali, where would they write those emails to?
Please email ThisNintendoLife@gmail.com. That is ThisNintendoLife@gmail.com. There's also a channel in our Discord server where you can do a post, a comment, a question. It's called Emails. Go over to that channel.
Yeah. Go do that, and we'll probably get back to those next time.
Yeah.
Unless Nintendo decides they're gonna do their whole fucking summer direct in June at some point. We don't know when because they haven't said when that's happening yet.
It's just turned June as we record. It's just
it has. June. It has. Yep. So that will happen at some point. So we'll see if that lines up with our recording schedule. No Nintendo and our history with that. It's not going to happen, but we'll
they've been a little better of late. I feel
a little bit. Yeah. Great, yeah, you can write in, and yeah, we'll get to those emails soon. You can, obviously, if you want to go and listen to that giant fucking 4-hour travelogue that I made, you can go and help us out on patreon.com.
I would highly recommend. Like, it's so good. I think what's so good about it, Nbz, is that unlike the audio log me and Caroline did way back when in 2017, you were consistently recording your feelings about the world in the moment.
Yes.
Like this isn't just like, oh, just checking at the end of the day. There's a little bit of that as well.
A little bit, yeah.
Predominantly, it was like, I'm filming, walking down the street in the moment. And
I'm riding a bicycle, and I'm also going to do this at the same time.
Scooshing water on my bum. I'm doing all these things live in the moment. This is my live audio reaction.
Yep.
And I think that's what's so strong about it. So like when you are in somewhere like the Pokemon Center, it's like, wow, that guy is having the time of his life, and you should listen to it because it's definitely worth it.
Absolutely. So yeah, you can check that out. We'd also like to thank some patrons, Bali.
Yes, thank you to our $10 tier plush. Pay a plush. I want Pokemon plushies.
Yeah, you do.
Talking about those more plushies. If you support us on the $50 tier level, we will make a plushie of yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But our $10 tier plus patrons are Zach S, Thomas, Matthew, Albert, Wicked Gamer UK, Alan Turtle, Orange Thunder, and Ali T. Thank you all for your support. And we have a brand new patron. They are Mooney Snitch, who supports us on the $2 tier level. Thank you so much for your support.
Absolutely. And yeah, you can head on over there if you want bonus episodes and other such fun things. You can go and find us online if you think that's a good idea. I did it increasingly probably a bad idea, but you can find me on the social platforms at Lord NBZ. Where can they find you, Bally?
I'm on Twitter and that Blue Sky thing at Ballyman91. That's BALLYMAN91.
You can also find at TNL Podcast on Twitter and go follow us there for updates about the show and all those good things. Links to polls when we do them and things like that. So yeah, do go check that out and check us out on Discord. Check us out on YouTube because the podcast goes up there simultaneously as well, if that is your preferred method of enjoying things. And that is going to do us. We're back in business now, Bally. Back in for the summer. I'm looking forward to it.
Back in business, but it's a little bit quiet on the Nintendo front.
It's a little bit. But there, there is a direct coming. It's happening. There's a summer direct. We're going to see what they say. I'll be very interested to hear. So
can they knock Astrobot off the goatee spot? That's the question.
Well, I don't know. It's a tough challenge, but we shall see. But till then, thank you everybody so much for listening. We'll be back in a couple of weeks' time with some more of this. Until then, a goodbye. The musical interlude used on today's show was Assassin Disco from Princess Peach Showtime. Copyright Nintendo 2024. God, where the fuck are you in Final Fantasy now?
Where am I?
Yeah.
I'm in the trial thing with Red 13.
Which trial? Oh, the
with Bungenhagen. What is he
Bugenhagen.
called?
Bungenhagen. My best friend Bungenhagen. Yes, Bugenhagen. Yes.
Bugenhagen.